Hi! This is your host. There are some animals that never die. Jellyfish that turn back time, worms that live for centuries, and a kind of shrimp that stays young forever. The secret to their immortality could be the key to ending age-related diseases in humans too. So let's find out why some animals never die. For thousands of years, people have been fascinated by death, where it comes from, and how to beat it. For most of history, the idea of living forever was just a dream. Something that only happened in fantasy stories. But now scientists believe it might be possible thanks to nature's superheroes, animals that never die. Even though we can't all become immortal like some animals. Studying them could help us live longer and healthier lives and even help fight deadly diseases. That's because these special animals aren't actually truly immortal. They just seem that way. Take the oceans! Super slow-moving blob of doom. The Turritopsis dohrnii, also known as the immortal jellyfish. These tiny, translucent creatures are roughly the size of the head of a pin, and they live in the Mediterranean Sea and parts of the Pacific Ocean. And this animal's superpower is escaping death. In 2008, researchers figured out that this dohrnii could potentially live forever. Normally, jellyfish have a life cycle with distinct beginning and end stages. Egg, planula, polyp, then ephra, and finally, the adult jellyfish stage. Once they reach sexual maturity, many jellyfish species just float along in the water column, feeding and growing, until one day they release eggs and sperm into the sea, creating a new generation of jellyfish. And at this point, their life is pretty much over. But not for the Turritopsis dohrnii. Instead of growing larger and reproducing, its cells start dividing over and over again. This process, called transdifferentiation, turns the jellyfish back into a completely different type of cell, reverting its development to an earlier stage. And so the jellyfish starts growing again, basically reliving its entire life over and over. Now, while it's hard to prove that an animal can literally live forever, scientists think this jellyfish is close to being immortal. It's basically stuck in a time loop. So the question is, what's the secret behind this power? Well, it comes down to the telomeres at the ends of the chromosomes in its cells. Picture shoelaces with plastic tips. These tips keep the shoelaces from fraying or getting damaged. Similarly, telomeres protect our chromosomes from damage. But here's the thing. Every time a cell divides, the telomeres get a little bit shorter, which means the cell gets a little less protected. Eventually, the telomeres get too short and the cells begin to die. But for the Turritopsis dohrnii, this isn't the case. Their telomeres stay just the right length no matter how many times they divide. And since their telomeres don't get shorter, their cells never die, which means the jellyfish never ages. It stays in its polyp stage forever. So, does this mean you could theoretically live forever if you had the same superpower? Not exactly! You see, while the jellyfish doesn't age, it isn't really growing up either. It stays at the polyp stage forever, unable to move out of its rock-like form. So, being immortal might not be all that great after all. Luckily, there are other animals whose superpowers involve more than just turning back the clock. To put that in perspective, they're the eiger of the rodent world, living about 10 times longer than mice and rats. And like the immortal jellyfish, the secret to their long lives has to do with their cells. You see, cells can get damaged when they're dividing. Normally, this damage causes the cell to stop working or even start working incorrectly. And if it's not fixed, the damaged cell can pass on its mistakes to new cells when it divides. Instead, they die from things like cancer and heart disease. But their anti-aging abilities come with some downsides. Being resistant to aging means they can live for decades. But it also means that their cells don't know when to die, which can cause problems. For example, when there's not enough food, a naked mole rat colony can dehydrate and starve to death. All because the one breeding female keeps having babies without giving the colony a chance to recover. It might not be all that great if it meant that you couldn't die from anything else. But luckily, there are other animals who have found a better balance between immortality and aging. Take the Greenland shark! The world's slowest growing fish. They're scary-looking fish that could grow to over 21 feet long and weigh 2,200 pounds. But despite their massive size, they grow super slowly. In fact, they're the slowest growing vertebrates on the planet. Greenland sharks take almost 15 years to reach sexual maturity. That's about as long as a human takes to start kindergarten. And since they grow so slowly, they tend to live for a long time too. Sometimes over 500 years. Now, to be clear, scientists haven't been able to confirm the Greenland shark's maximum lifespan. It is tough to figure out how old a fish is when it is still growing and has reached sexual maturity. Plus, Greenland sharks live deep in the ocean where it's hard to study them. But because they grow so slowly, scientists think they must be pretty old. And the reason they grow so slowly is the key to their long lives. When animals are born, they go through a period of rapid growth, where they get bigger and bigger. But Greenland sharks just don't do that. Instead, they grow slowly throughout their entire lives. And by growing slowly, they have longer telomeres, which means they age slower too. While it's cool to know that Greenland sharks grow at the speed of a toddler, it probably wouldn't be great to apply their superpower to ourselves. Humans need to grow quickly when we babies because we reborn helpless and need to get big fast so we can survive on our own. And if we grew slowly, we'd spend a lot of time feeling like helpless babies. That's why some of the other animals' superpowers are a lot more appealing. Take the case of the Mediterranean mussel. These tiny bivalve mollusks live in the eastern Atlantic Ocean from Iceland to South Africa. And like all mussels, they have a kind of superpower that lets them restore their DNA. See, all mussels have special cells called These cells normally fight off invaders like parasites and bacteria. But when a predator attacks, the hemocytes can also travel to the injured part of the body and heal the wound. They use a sticky substance to keep the shell closed and protect the mussel from further damage. And this process activates proteins that recognize and break down damaged DNA. Then the proteins build new DNA to replace the old. And this process works so well that scientists think Mediterranean mussels can repair their DNA over and over again, which means they're essentially immortal. But while it would be pretty neat to be able to repair our DNA anytime it gets damaged, this power comes with some drawbacks. When the Mediterranean mussel repairs its DNA, it also gets rid of some of its existing DNA. That's not a problem for the mussel, because it's not losing any genetic information, but it would be a big deal for humans. That's because we have a limited amount of DNA in each of our cells. And if we kept replacing it, we'd eventually run out. But it's hard to say what the downsides of any of these superpowers would be, unless we try to recreate them in a lab. And that's what scientists are doing. Researchers are studying the Turritopsis dohrnii to figure out how to turn back the clock on human aging. They're also studying naked mole rats to see if their abilities to sense and repair damaged DNA can help prevent age-related diseases like cancer. And they're studying the Greenland shark to see how growing slowly could help prevent aging. And the research is already paying off. Scientists are getting closer and closer to figuring out how to apply these superpowers to ourselves. Now, if we could just find a way to combine them, we could live forever and get all the pizza we want. Just kidding. Scientists have no idea how to combine these superpowers, but they are working on developing new drugs that could help prevent aging and age-related diseases. Who knows? Maybe we'll even discover the secret to immortality. Speaking of superpowers, you have one too, and it's the power of curiosity. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to learn more about some of the amazing animals mentioned in this video, check out the link below. And remember, you can always find more fun stuff to watch on our channel.